Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to go over stability in kayaks, specifically both recreational and fishing kayaks. This is easily the most asked question that I get here at the store in person and online from those of you watching my videos. So I want to go into more detail. So I'm going to talk about obviously why is stability important in both fishing and recreational kayaking. Number two, I'll go over the different kinds of stability and why each one of those are important. And then toward the end of the video, I'm going to go over really my thoughts on why I think people may be focusing too much on stability and what you're sacrificing by doing so. So anyways, guys, let's get right into it. Okay, so starting off, just talking about stability in kayaks and why it's important. So obviously, I feel like a lot of people focus primarily on the stability because maybe they don't have the best balance. Maybe they're getting into kayaking from other sports, whether it be boating or anything else like that, or canoeing even, and they're concerned with tipping over, losing all their gear. And that's understandable. So, but usually when people ask me about, a specific model, or maybe they're comparing two different kayaks or two completely different kayaks, and their number one question is going to be stability. How stable is it? How do they compare stability-wise? But really, there's only so much stability you need. If you can go way on the other side of the spectrum on it, and you can also go on the opposite direction, and you're talking about whitewater kayaks and all that. But really, what I tell people is, a lot of kayaks, specifically fishing kayaks, are built extremely stable. They're built for that higher seat position. They're built to have that swivel seat on it. This kayak is designed to do that. But when people are focusing too far on it, you're going to end up buying just a dock that you can paddle around on the water. And really what that does is it's going to make you work a lot harder than you're intending on. And I see it all the time where someone sees something and is like, man, that's really stable. I'm going to take it down to some skinny water and lakes and ponds. And then they decide really quickly that this thing is a real chore to paddle around. It wears me out. I'm loading and unloading this extremely bulky and heavy kayak. So that's really why I wanted to make this video, to kind of talk to anybody even considering kayaking or maybe considering their next kayaking, is things that you want to consider when you're looking at stability. And also, this is obviously going to be tailored to lake, but also I'll be going over a little bit of river and creek because you want stability there, but you may want a different kind of stability for your slow moving rivers and streams, or class 2s, maybe occasional class 3s. And again, I'm talking about rec and fishing kayaks here. Okay, so I'm talking about the two different styles or two different kinds of stability, and I'm talking about primary and secondary stability. So I think about 80% of customers and people looking at kayaks, they're more focused on the primary stability. Now, your primary stability is going to be like standing on the ground. It's that initial wiggle. When you're standing, when the boat is level, how much play do you have from side to side? That is your primary stability. In other words, the first stability that you're feeling. Secondary stability is a little different. So there's some people, whether they're intermediate or seasoned kayakers, they prefer the secondary stability, and I'm kind of one of those. I like a little bit of a looser primary, but I like a really good secondary stability. So secondary stability, you may have looked at different kayak designs and you'll see those ridges or those angles on the side of the kayak, and that is going to give you that additional resistance. So once you lean the kayak so far to the right or left, you're going to feel that second set of resistance, or secondary stability. So secondary stability is really, really good for slow moving rivers or even adventure water. It allows you to turn into it while you're paddling. So if you got a big kayak namely a fishing kayak or a rec kayak, and it allows you to turn into that paddle stroke a little bit more. Think of coming over some shoals or some rapids and you see that rock or that hazard kind of at the last minute. It allows you to turn and lean and make that bigger kayak feel a little smaller as far as how it maneuvers and handles. Now there's a lot of kayaks out there, and keep in mind that the companies out there, the manufacturers, they're listening to their customers. They're seeing people talk about stability, and there's some kayaks that have been designed, let's just say stability over everything. So that is going to be namely primary stability, but there are some kayaks out there that they go too far on the primary and not enough on secondary. What that causes you to do is it feels really stable, but once it leans past a certain point, that kayak is tipping over. A lot's been made of this by the Hobie Pro Angler, and a lot of people, there's some people that say it's extremely stable, and there's some people that say it's unstable because they tipped it over. Well, that kayak is not designed to lean over a great deal. That is primary stability over everything. They've made that hull to be a little speedier, a little bit more maneuverable than its size would suggest, and you really kind of bypass that secondary stability. So most of us are leaning over to boat that fish, to get that net in the water, and we lean over a little too much. So the biggest rule I would tell people is, as long as you keep your shoulders and your head inside the sides of the kayak, you're going to be fine on a majority of kayaks out there. But knowing how to tell the design of a kayak and how it's going to handle, obviously demo a kayak if you're really concerned about how something is going to handle or be with you in it, but just know that your secondary stability is there for a reason, and usually you're not going to have something that's going to max out both. You're usually going to be given and taken between those two areas. Now finally, I'm going to go over something, and this is kind of a hot topic with me here, is why stability shouldn't be the most important thing that you're focusing on when looking at a kayak. So specifically fishing kayaks, a lot of people want stability, but why do they want stability? They want to be able to stand up and fish. They want to be able to stretch their legs out after being in a seated position for a long period of time, and that is completely understandable. But sometimes someone may not think a kayak is stable because of their own physical limitations, their own deficiencies as far as water balance. And again, I'm the world's worst at it. I just don't have that great water balance because I just don't do it a whole lot. But there are exercises that you can do. There are things that you can do to really help you, those stabilizer muscles, help you strengthen those stabilizers to really maximize that feeling of stability, because stability really is different from one individual to the next, depending on their physical limitations. So keep that in mind as well. What feels stable to me may not feel stable to you, and vice versa. So stability, what you do when you max out that stability, in other words, if you're rating on a scale from 1 to 10 and your kayak that you're looking at is a 10, it's the top tier, most stable thing out there, typically what will happen is you're making some sacrifices on the maneuverability. And the reason that's important is, if it doesn't move through the water really well, but it's stable, unless you're just sticking around the dock or sticking around the launch point and not going a great distance, that's going to leave you just absolutely wore out, or feeling that you're lumbering this thing through the water and the kayak is fighting against you. Another thing to consider is, if you're looking at motorizing a kayak, which a lot of people are nowadays, how that kayak moves through the water before it's motorized will definitely have a huge impact on how it moves through the water once it's motorized, because all of that resistance that you're getting from all of that stability built into the kayak is going to work against that motor. So you're going to be working that motor harder. You're going to be running that battery a lot harder. A lot of things can start to snowball on this. So there's a lot of kayaks that kayak companies have really risen to the challenge as far as your maneuverability. When I think of maneuverability, I'm thinking of, the New Canoe Unlimited, the Bonafide PWR 129. Jackson Kayak has always done a great job also on maximizing stability while maintaining that maneuverability, how it handles, how it turns, how quickly you can spin it with a couple of paddle strokes. I've been in a lot of kayaks, and there's some of them out there obviously that feel stable, but man, when you're trying to turn that thing, unless you're in a small pond or really close to shore, you're really going to get into some trouble there when you're talking about boat traffic, when you're talking about wake, windy situations. Also, when you maximize on that stability, your boat is really going to control you more than you're controlling the boat. And that's personally my preference on secondary over primary, is that too much primary, and if you're going over some choppy water, whether it be rivers or creeks or a lot of wake, even offshore, you're getting a lot of that chop in the water, and that boat bottom is going to want to stay parallel to the water surface. So if you get really choppy water, that boat is going to tip and turn, and it's going to move you around quite a bit. So always consider those things when you're looking at your next kayak. So in closing, guys, the thing that I really wanted to leave you with here today was look at something more than just stability. Think about how you're going to be using it. Are you going to be covering a lot of ground? And these are just some extra questions to ask yourself and to answer them honestly before you make the dive into buying an expensive kayak. So how far are you wanting to travel? How much weight capacity do you need? What are you going to see yourself doing in this kayak? And then go one step further with that need, because needs change over time. If you're getting to where you're wanting to put a motor on it, does it accept the motor? Does it have that capability? All things to look at. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're here, you enjoy the content, join the crowd, have some fun. We'll see you on the next video, guys. Thank you.